Your Honor, thank you for the opportunity to make this statement.
She was never just another gymnast. She was the heartbeat of a team, the quiet leader who turned pain into poetry and silence into strength. Before the medals, before the bright lights of London and Rio, there was a little girl from Needham, Massachusetts, chasing a dream bigger than the balance beam beneath her feet. But the road to greatness was never smooth. Behind the perfect routines and glittering leotards lay exhaustion, self-doubt, and a hidden darkness that would one day shake the entire world of gymnastics. When the spotlight faded, what remained was not just an athlete, but a survivor, a fighter, and a voice for millions who had been silenced. This is not a story about gold medals. It's about courage, about standing tall when the world tries to bend you, and about a woman who discovered that her greatest victory would never come from a score, but from the truth she refused to bury. This is the rise, the fall, and the fearless rebirth of Aly Raisman. Aly Raisman was born in Needham, Massachusetts in 1994, a quiet, leafy suburb where dreams felt both close and impossibly far. Her parents, Lynn and Rick, weren't from the world of fame or athletics. They were ordinary people who believed in discipline, kindness, and showing up for each other. Every single day. From the beginning, Aly was a bundle of energy, climbing furniture, spinning in the living room, and mimicking every move she saw on TV. One afternoon, when she was just 2 years old, she watched a replay of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team, the Magnificent Seven. Her tiny eyes widened, and something unexplainable sparked inside her. "I want to do that," she whispered. Soon, her parents enrolled her in a local Mommy and Me gymnastics class. What started as playtime became a daily rhythm of focus, discipline, and sweat. Aly was small, but her determination was enormous. While other kids gave up after a few tumbles, she tried again. And again. Her mother remembers sitting on the bleachers, heart pounding, as Aly practiced routines far beyond her age. There was no arrogance, no rush, just quiet persistence. By the time she was 10, she was training seriously, her childhood shrinking under the weight of early mornings, chalk-stained hands, and endless repetition. But through it all, her family stayed close, cheering, worrying, believing. Those long drives to practice, the smell of gym mats, the sound of applause echoing through small-town gyms, they became the soundtrack of her youth. Aly didn't come from privilege or prodigy. She came from love, sweat, and an unshakable belief that greatness begins in the smallest moments, when a child dares to dream beyond the walls of her hometown. By her early teens, Aly's world had shrunk to a simple rhythm: school, gym, sleep, repeat. The smell of chalk dust and rubber mats became her second home. While other kids her age went to sleepovers or dances, Aly spent weekends in leotards, perfecting the same routine 1,000 times, chasing fractions of a point that could change everything. At 14, she joined Brestian's gymnastics in Burlington, training under the legendary Mihai and Sylvia Brestian, coaches known for their iron discipline and relentless pursuit of perfection. Their philosophy was simple: if you want to be the best, you have to train like no one else will. The early years weren't glamorous. Aly battled exhaustion, self-doubt, and a body that sometimes couldn't keep up with her spirit. There were tears behind closed doors, moments when she questioned if she was good enough, if all the pain would ever be worth it. But every morning she came back, steady, uncomplaining, and focused. Her breakthrough came in 2010, at the Pacific Rim Championships. She wasn't the most famous gymnast on the team, but her leadership stood out. Judges noticed her composure, her clean lines, and the quiet fire in her eyes. That same year, she made the U.S. national team, a dream years in the making. She wasn't just another gymnast anymore. She was now part of something bigger. Reporters described her as the anchor, the calm in the storm. What they didn't see was the teenager who still braided her own hair before meets and called her mom from the locker room. Just to hear her voice, it was the first crack of light in a long tunnel. The Moment, Aly Raisman's quiet discipline began to turn into destiny. London, 2012. The world watched as 5 young women stepped onto the Olympic floor, their faces painted with determination, their nerves hidden beneath layers of glitter and steel. They were called the Fierce Five, and at the center of that storm stood Aly Raisman. She wasn't the loudest or the most celebrated name at first, but when the pressure rose, Aly became the heartbeat of the team. She led with silence, steady, grounded, unshakable. As captain, she reminded the others that courage doesn't come from fearlessness, but from facing fear and doing it anyway. Her performances that summer were electric. On the team finals night, the U.S. stunned the world, gold medals glimmering beneath the London lights. Then came Aly's floor routine, set to Hava Nagila, a song rooted in her Jewish heritage. It was joyous, powerful, and deeply personal. Each twist and leap felt like a conversation between heritage and hope. When the final note ended, the arena exploded. That routine won her the individual gold medal on floor and made her an instant symbol of resilience and pride. Her parents, sitting in the stands, became viral sensations themselves, their anxious faces mirroring every rise and fall of their daughter's routine. For a moment, Aly Raisman wasn't just a gymnast. She was America's sweetheart, the embodiment of discipline, grace, and quiet strength. She appeared on magazine covers, talk shows, parades, smiling, humble, grateful. But even as the cameras flashed, she felt the weight of expectation pressing heavier than ever. Fame is a double-edged metal, one side shining, the other cutting deep. Behind the smiles, her body ached, her mind tired, her heart quietly whispering questions about what would come next. The world saw perfection. But perfection, Aly would soon learn, comes at a price. By the time the Rio Olympics arrived in 2016, Aly Raisman had become a veteran. The captain once again, older, wiser, and carrying not just her own dreams, but the weight of an entire team's legacy. She delivered extraordinary performances, 2 silver medals, and a breathtaking floor routine that brought the world to tears. Yet behind the smiles and camera flashes, something had changed. Aly was exhausted, not just physically but emotionally. Years of pressure, scrutiny, and sacrifice had carved deep lines of weariness into her once unshakable focus. Then came the darkness no one saw coming. As the world celebrated the heroes of Rio, the truth began to unravel. The horrifying revelations of abuse that had haunted the sport for years. Aly's world cracked open. The man who had been trusted as a doctor to young athletes had been hiding unimaginable crimes. For Aly, the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was systemic. The very institution that was supposed to protect her had looked away. At first, she stayed silent, not out of fear, but because she needed to gather the strength to face a monster. When she finally spoke, the world listened. Her testimony before Congress, poised, tearful, but fierce, echoed far beyond the courtroom. In that moment, Aly Raisman stopped being an athlete. She became something far more powerful, a survivor, an advocate, a voice for every girl who had been told to be quiet. The fall of her sport was brutal. Heroes were questioned, organizations collapsed, and trust turned to dust. But in the wreckage, one truth remained unshaken. Aly Raisman's courage was not broken by the scandal. It was forged in it. After the storm came silence, not the kind that soothes, but the kind that demands healing. For Aly Raisman, life after gymnastics was not about routines or medals anymore. It was about rebuilding a self that had been broken, piece by piece, truth by truth. She began speaking, not as a performer, but as a survivor. In interviews, universities, and advocacy panels, she stood tall before thousands and said the words others couldn't. Her voice trembled at times, but never faltered. "We are not defined by what happened to us," she said. "We are defined by how we rise." In 2017, she released her book, Fierce, part memoir, part manifesto. It wasn't a glossy celebrity tell-all. It was raw, honest, and full of fire. She detailed not only the triumphs, but the darkness. and how facing it became her greatest act of strength. The world saw a different Aly now, no longer the gymnast on the mat, but the woman who had turned trauma into purpose. She became an advocate for athlete safety, mental health, and women's rights, pushing sports institutions to reform and protect future generations. Time named her one of the 100 most influential people. Brands, schools, and organizations sought her not for fame, but for her authenticity. She spoke about therapy, vulnerability, and the importance of saying, "I'm not okay," topics once taboo in the world of elite competition. In rediscovering herself, Aly also rediscovered freedom. Freedom to speak, to rest, to live without fear. The girl who once measured her worth in medals had learned something far more valuable: that true strength isn't in standing perfectly still on a beam, but in standing tall after the fall. Aly Raisman didn't just win medals, she changed what strength means in the modern world. In an industry once built on silence and obedience, she became the voice that demanded accountability, empathy, and change. Her courage sparked a movement. Because of Aly and her fellow survivors, U.S. gymnastics faced its reckoning. Policies were rewritten, oversight was reformed. Generations of young athletes would now grow up safer because one woman refused to be quiet. But her influence stretched far beyond the gym. She became a symbol of resilience for anyone who had ever been. Broken by a system and forced to rebuild from the ashes, fans began calling her the conscience of gymnastics. Others described her as the voice of the voiceless. But Aly never sought titles, only truth. Her leadership redefined heroism, not the kind that stands atop a podium with tears of victory, but the kind that stands in courtrooms, in classrooms, and on stages, telling hard truths with trembling hands and unwavering eyes. Today, when young athletes mention her name, they don't just talk about her gold medals, they talk about her bravery. Aly Raisman's legacy is not just written in Olympic records. It's etched into the culture of courage she helped create. A reminder that real champions are not the ones who never fall, but the ones who rise, speak, and lift others with them. These days, Aly Raisman's life moves at a different rhythm. No more 5 a.m. alarms, no chalk-covered hands, no cameras waiting outside the arena. The applause has faded. But in its silence, she found something far more precious: peace. She spends her mornings walking her dogs through quiet parks, practicing mindfulness, or tending to her garden. For someone who once measured time in routines and rotations, she now measures it in breaths, in moments of calm that used to feel impossible. In interviews, she often says that healing is not a straight line. Some days are strong, others fragile. And that's okay. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful, she reminds her audience. Aly has become an advocate for mental health, self-acceptance, and body positivity. She speaks openly about therapy, vulnerability, and the courage to rest, ideas once foreign in the world of elite athletes. She also spends time mentoring younger gymnasts, teaching them not just how to compete, but how to protect their hearts. "You are more than your medals," she tells them. "You are enough, even on the days you don't feel like it." Her journey is no longer about reaching higher. It's about going deeper, from perfection to peace, from competition to compassion. And in that quiet transformation, Aly Raisman finally found what she had been searching for all along: herself. In the end, Aly Raisman's story isn't about gymnastics. It's about humanity, the kind that breaks, bleeds, and somehow finds the strength to stand again. She once soared through the air chasing perfection. Now she walks the earth teaching courage. Her medals may shine in a museum, but her true victories live in the lives she's touched, in every young woman who found her voice, in every survivor who stood a little taller because Aly did. She reminds us that greatness is not measured by applause or gold. It's measured by how you rise when the world turns away, and how you keep believing in light when all you've known is darkness. The little girl from Needham dreamed of representing her country. She ended up representing something far greater: the unbreakable spirit of truth, because heroes aren't born under spotlights. They're forged in silence, in pain, and in the choice to speak when silence would be easier. Aly Raisman didn't just stand on the podium. She stood for something, and in doing so, taught the world that the truest kind of strength is the strength to stand tall,